Introduce to you Louise Kingston.
Thank you, Steve. Well, what a rousing beginning to today that was. I just want to say wow. After the amount of feedback I got telling me not to come and how risky it was, and the amount of people that clearly were threatened not to come today, this is wow. Well done, everybody. Give yourself a huge round of applause. This is an absolutely proud moment in Western Australia. People have had enough. We've been told to do what to do over and over and over again in this term of government. And if we don't stand up and we don't make a difference and we don't make our voice counted, we are going to lose even more of what is precious to us. Look at where we are today. You know, think about the people that fought on our behalf to give us what we've got. And people are just rolling over and laying down and going, please don't hit me anymore. That's not how you make a difference. You stand forward, you step forward, you're part of the change makers, and you tell people what they need to hear. You don't let people dictate to you on what your life should be like. I have a very good friend of mine once that said to me, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And that's what we've got here. Lots and lots of people are part of the problem because they're not stepping forward to being spoken to people. The operation of this parliament, as we know, has been totally and utterly corrupted. Watching in my time in there, which has only been half a term, watching what went on in terms of so many pieces of legislation where they were just saying, this is what you're going to get. We don't care what you need, we're just going to give you this. And this piece of firearms legislation was the worst piece of legislation that I have ever seen in my whole entire life. The lack of consultation, the unworkability of it, the application of it. The poor old police officers out there at the moment trying to adhere to what they're being told to do. The frontline guys who really don't want to be a part of this either. It speaks volumes about what is wrong with government in Western Australia. I put over 20 amendments to the legislation through the proper process. And there weren't any of them that got debated properly. Not a single solitary one were actually considered. And they came from you. You know, I spoke to people, to groups. I had so many people in my office telling me why it wasn't going to work. So I did the work. I put those amendments forward and they just got ignored and the legislation just got rammed through. And what you have to think about is, you know, what do you want for a leader? A strong leader actually brings people together. It doesn't divide people. They consult properly, they take their time, and they actually ensure that legislation is considered functional, not the dog's breakfast that we've ended up with this legislation. It's appalling. The people of WA deserve and must demand better at this election. We've seen so many of our rights eroded and attacked by this government. I call them the 5 Fs. It's firearms, fishing, farming, forestry and 4-wheel driving. And what do all those Fs have in common? They're actually fragmented. So they're easy pickings. So people need to think about how you bring everything together so that you stand united and you have something that you know the minister is going to take notice of and say, actually, these guys are really important in Western Australia. Firearms owners undertake so many important roles in community. And I think one of the ones that worried me the most was the change of the CALM Act, which meant that all of the state forests where people can hunt now would be locked up as well. What does that mean to the feral animals? We've already got a problem with that. Hunters in Western Australia are so valuable. All firearms owners in Western Australia are valuable. And you need to be respected. It's disgraceful. Now, the new voting system, and this is where you can make a difference. So take your time to have a look at what the upper house looks like now. You will now have 37 representatives across the whole of Western Australia. So you can vote for any one of those upper house members in the Legislative Council. The ticket at the top, so they're your normal boxes when everybody normally just puts one. If you do that, the major parties' votes will be extinguished. The ones that are left over, they're not going to be distributed. So if you vote above the line, you can now vote 1 to 2, 1 to 2, 3, and so on, up to however many people. You can choose your preferences if you choose to go that way. Under the line, which is likely where I'll be ending up, I won't likely have a box above the line, you can vote 1 to 20 as a minimum. That's a lot easier. But if you want to choose the 37 people that represent you, go and look at who they all are and then vote 1 to 37. Take the time to make your vote count, because this is probably the first time in history that you can actually make a difference in terms of what the next government looks like. People are looking for representatives like me that aren't afraid to fight for your freedoms and our way of life. So what's next? What's the possible scenarios? I won't go into it too much because Steve covered it. But basically, let's get Labor out. That's the first thing we really need to focus on. Secondly, we could end up with them back in with a small minority. I think that's probably likely. And that means that you need to get engaged in this upper house voting system. You need to make sure that you have a range of people that support you. I've got an example to use. So I looked at this and I looked at the fragmentation of all these different organisations. And I've got a little story to tell you. In 2001, I've been involved in Speedway for over 30 years. Firstly as a racer, then I married a racer, and then I had 4 daughters that raced. And, you know, we've absolutely loved our sport. In 2001, when 9/11 hit, the insurance costs for Speedway went through the roof and it was unsustainable. The community came together and worked with government through Sport and Rec and formed what's called the WA Speedway Commission. And that took on the role of actually bringing all of the different fragmented areas of Speedway together and to actually promote it as a responsible and risk-free or low-risk sport. It's been a huge success, and Speedway in Western Australia is now, that's their governing body. I see that as necessary to bring firearms together and to be able to show all the different functions and to be able to do really good PR marketing and advertising for firearms in Western Australia. It's not a hard thing to do and it's relatively low cost, but the outcome will be absolutely awesome. So one of my staff members, my speech has been made up by people that have sent me all manner of stuff over the last few months, and particularly when the rally was announced. And she sent this through. She said, each time a person stands up for an ideal or acts to improve the lot of others or strikes out against injustice, it sends forth a tiny ripple of hope. That came from Robert F. Kennedy. So this is a ripple of hope today, and we need to build on this till we make waves, till you say to the people of Western Australia, we matter. You say to the politicians, don't discount us, don't ignore us, listen to us. And I am absolutely thrilled to be here today and speak to you, and I hope that I will be there representing you in this next term of Parliament, and I can truly make a difference and we can do something with these draconian and dreadful laws, and that you, the people of Western Australia, are actually listened to. So, how do we feel about that? Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Louise. She's my newest best friend. Okay, the next speaker that we have is